All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
Hello, Jerred.
That's great. I love it.
I gotta
Okay,
have
we're
new
just gonna.
intros every single time.
You gotta do something. Keep it interesting here. So this is the Garage Gym Athletes problem segment, and we are getting into problems that our athletes have submitted to us. And if you want to submit one, go to garagegymathlete.com, just contact us, and we will happily answer it on here. Hopefully, we can actually solve some problems for athletes, any garage gym athlete. And this one is not knowing how to properly sub exercises when the exact tool or gear is not available. And this is, I think, garage gym athlete wide. Yeah, very specific. It could be to our programming, but really it doesn't matter if you're a garage gym athlete and you follow a program, you're going to run into this at some point because dependent on the programming you're following, they may have some really crazy things programmed that you don't have access to. If you're following our programming, we're really thinking about a garage gym athlete and we're not like, yeah, 3 sets of 10 of the belt squat, or things like that. And so you really got to first pick the right kind of programming who's thinking about this stuff for you. But then after that, they're still going to run into things like our athletes might run into this could be either or, like, hey, we said do kettlebell overhead press. And you're like, I don't even have any kettlebells, but I have dumbbells. Great. Okay. Or it could be, we said dumbbell overhead press and you only have access to kettlebells and no dumbbells. Like those are kind of easy subs, but we run into more complicated ones sometimes. So Joe, how do we properly sub exercises when they don't have the correct tool or gear in their garage space?
Yeah, this is it's going to kind of go. My answer would be similar to what we said with like the ceiling height and other things, is like getting the right stimulus for what the workout calls for. So if it's a jumping, if it's a something that requires some power, whether it's a kettlebell swing or kettlebell snatch, you don't have any kettlebells, then what are you doing there? You're not just a burpee isn't a sub there because it's not like you're getting your heart rate up. You actually want to be powerful in that sense. So a jump, some sort of jump would be the sub there. A lot of times there are people asking like, okay, double unders. I need to sub double unders because I don't have a jump rope. My ceiling height again is bad. What should I do? And I know I see some people say, oh, well, you just do burpees or mountain climbers. Well, actually, it would be sometimes that's fine because of if we want to get your heart rate up, but like jumping jacks, like you're jumping, it's still a jumping thing. It's still the same, basically what you're doing with your lower body, but you just don't have a jump rope. So getting the right stimulus, and I know it gets in a little more in the weeds that some people might be either used to thinking or capable of thinking, because now they're like, okay, well, I don't know what the exact intent here is, or I don't have the experience to know what the intent that I should be doing. But reaching out and asking like, okay, what should I be doing on this is, people are always willing to help there. A lot of times the substitutions, some of the bad substitutions come from ex CrossFit athletes, because I feel like a lot of times CrossFit substitutions are just like, yeah, whatever, just go and just do this because we're just
Get your heart rate
really,
up.
yeah, we're just moving really high intensity for a while, so just go do something hard, and that's a fine sub, that's cool. But we're more about like, no, we actually have a specific intent for each thing that we are doing. So I'm not just going to tell you to go do something. If I'm having you do box jumps because I want you to jump, burpees or double unders aren't going to be the same thing that I want you to do because you're not jumping. So really it's the stimulus and the intent of what is going, and it might take a little deeper thinking, or it might take a while to get in the right mindset, especially if you're newer, but it definitely it helps after a while. And so and it's always good to reach out, because then it's also like an educational time for us to help people, okay, we're going for this here, this is why we're doing this, so you should be doing this instead versus X.
Yeah, I think intent is very important. So I kind of have, when we get to specific movements, I think it's harder if you're trying to sub like energy system type stuff. Like that's going to be really difficult. You'd have to know a good amount of programming. So I think typically when people are running into this stuff, it's just, yeah, like the
Equipment.
exact movement and muscle groups and things like that. So here's my 2-part thing to put in your brain. So first, think muscle group. All right. So if we want to say we're trying to hit the triceps, the deltoids, and the chest, and so I'm specifically programming dips, and for some reason you can't do dips, you have no place to do dips. It's basically impossible, but let's just say that that's what you've told me. You can't do dips. It's like, okay, well, my first thing would be go find something that's going to work your chest, your deltoids, and your triceps. And so you could do something like a push-up in place of that. Now we're in the same muscle group, so that's part one. Okay, so I give you a B, all right, on the substitution. I'm giving you a B. It's fine. You're hitting the muscle groups I want. But then part two, if you really want that A for substitution, first think muscle group, second think plane of movement. Okay. And I'm not going to get into the 3 different planes of movement and how complicated that could be, but just think about, okay, when I'm doing dips, I'm working those muscle groups, but my body is vertical. It's what we call a vertical push. So that is a vertical push. So bench dips, weighted dips, all these different types of things is a vertical push. So for a dip, you need to think about what is another way I could do a vertical push, because what you're jumping to when you go from dips to a bodyweight push-up is you're doing a horizontal push. So you're going from a vertical push to a horizontal push. So I still give you, like I said, you have a B because we got the same muscle groups. I'm happy with that. But if you want a pure, like, okay, I can't do this thing, what else can I do? If you can think of another vertical push exercise, in place of the dips, that would get you the A. And so if you did like dumbbell shoulder press or something like that, that's actually better because that is a vertical push as opposed to just doing, something horizontal. So think of that. First, muscle group. Second, plane of movement. And again, if the plane of movement thing is getting too complicated for you, then just drop it and get the B. Just go for muscle groups. But then if you want to really nail it, and the only time where we don't personally actually listen to our own advice on that 2-part thing is with pull-ups. So with pull-ups, we are doing a vertical pull, and then we always tell you to do rows, like ring rows in sub of that. So that would be a horizontal pull. That's one time where we're going different. But in this case, if you can't do a pull-up, there are other things that we could work on, but I really prefer someone just get their back and biceps stronger. And that's the best way to do it is a horizontal pull. So even barbell or kettlebell rows, chainsaw row, anything that's going to increase that back strength is going to get you better at pull-ups. So that's the only time we don't really listen to that advice, because there are some times where you just need to strengthen an exercise, but there aren't a lot of exercises like that in fitness. I think pull-up, I don't know if I could think of any other one. Pull-up's like the only one where it's like, you can do this or you can't. Like everyone can do a deadlift, right? Because you can just modify the load. But a pull-up has to do with lifting a very specific amount of weight, and it's your own. And you can either do it or you can't. And so we sometimes just need to get stronger in a movement.
Yeah. The last one that I'm going to talk about is more on the pride side, and that is a lot of times we get substitutions because people have a physical limitation of either they're injured or they're sick or there's something like, hey, I'm in a walking boot and this says to run for 30 minutes. What should I do? You should probably just heal. You should probably it's okay to like not do something. And while you can get your heart rate up other ways, or you just don't try and jump through, if you got to jump through 5 different hoops around your injury just to get something done, it's probably not that good. You should probably just rest in general. There's probably other smaller things that you could do. And I'm not saying don't work out when you're injured, because there's always stuff you can do when you're injured. You just focus on another body part. So you might just have to do a complete pivot versus trying to do something similar. Like when I've had, back or hip issues before, instead of, pivoting to see like, okay, how can I squat with this issue? It was, no, I'm just going to do upper body and abs for the next couple of weeks because I need to rest that area. So that's the only time that I would say, complete pivot is if you're injured, versus trying to get a bit too clever with your substitutions because you're hurt or something like that.
Yeah, or get a ski erg if your foot's in a boot. But that's essentially what I did. Like I in part wanted it because of my brother's injury, and then right around that time, I hurt my back, and then I was like, I couldn't run and couldn't really run or bike, and I'm like, well, ski erg it is. Like that's just
Pop quiz. I have pop quiz for you because I've noticed something. How many pieces of equipment have you bought because you yourself or a family member has had an injury? I can think of like 4 or 5 off the top of my head for you.
What have I bought from injury? I know I bought
Or for this question, I think at least 4 things that you have.
for me specifically, or for a family member.
You were the
Because
family member. Pieces of equipment you've
oh
bought
yeah,
because
the
of an
reverse
injury.
hyper I like almost 100% bought for my dad because he broke his back, and I knew he'd never buy that piece of equipment for himself.
Mhm.
Ski erg was mostly for my brother, because I still don't even like the ski erg that much, and I knew same thing. He'd never buy it for himself, and
Mhm.
I'm happy to have one, and he can use it as much as he wants. Um, Hex bar deadlift could fall into that category, I guess, because
Yeah.
when I hurt my back, I was like, well, let's try hex bar, but I really found out that my back didn't really like much at all. And so that one didn't work as much. Let's see if there's anything else I can think of.
Was the bike erg because your foot, or was that like 2 separate things? You just wanted a bike to bike.
No, I just want a biker because I was cycling a lot, and then the weather wouldn't always agree with me.
Okay.
When I broke my foot in North Carolina, I already had the rower, and I just did a bunch of rowing.
Mhm.
That was I think that burned me out on rowing, to be honest. I like don't row much anymore. I'm like
I noticed that.
just not
I don't either.
just not a fan of it. Like I'd rather be on the bike or the ski erg or like anything else. I'm even like flirting with getting an Airdyne again because I gave mine away. And if I do though, I have to sell something. That's like the deal here. Um, Mainly because I'm running out of space.
Yeah.
But we can get out of here. A little tangent down memory lane. So my ultimate, I guess, real advice is when you run into a problem, buy something to solve your problem.
Just throw money at it.
Just throw money at it. All right. Well, that's it for this one. If you are listening on your podcast player, make sure you subscribe to our feed. Also, 5-star review, positive comment. We would really, really appreciate it. And it helps the show reach more people. If you're on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed. Give us a thumbs up, a like, comment on the video. Let us know your problem. You can let us know in the comments, or you can go to garagegymathlete.com, contact us, submit a problem. We would really appreciate that. For all of our athletes who are a part of the programming, we really appreciate you guys for staying consistent, doing everything that you're doing. But that's all we have for this problem. Thank you for watching or listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.